Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Rocket Vlogs. It's Christmas Day, so if you celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas. Sorry the heater's on. It's cold out here. It's like 20 degrees outside. Here she sits, the 5-inch Wildman Punisher. We have 3 coats of the color shift paint on there and 4 coats of clear. I was going to get some 2K clear and hit it with a proper clear coat, but there's some imperfections in the paint, especially on the nose cone, and it's just going to get flowing anyway. So we did 4 coats of clear, and I'm going to show you guys the process I use to finishing it. I'm going to turn that off. Sorry, there we go. So basically we're finishing this just like a car paint job. I'm going to wet sand it. I'll probably just go straight to 1,000 because the last few coats of clear went on really smooth and no runs or anything. So I'm just going to hit it with 1,000, 1,500, 2,000. Then we're going to use a cutting compound, a waxless cutting compound. This is important because on my 4-inch one, I used the cutting compound, then waxed it, then put the vinyl on, which made it obviously a little bit difficult to get the vinyl to stay down. The issue was the negative space in the paint that's behind the graphic, which is again kind of an issue. So the graphic is a lot less detailed for this one than the Ghost Rider graphic on the 4-inch one. So we're just going to sand it out to like 2,000 grit and then hit it with the cutting compound, which should bring plenty of sheen back to it. And then we're going to wax everything that isn't covered by vinyl. So a long time ago I was going to build a 3-inch minimum diameter rocket because I wanted to fly a minimum diameter M1450 that caused my Aerotech White Lightning motor. But that kind of fell apart. I realized I don't really even like altitude all that much, even though this with the N1000 it will probably push close to 30,000 feet. We'll get there when we get there. I just I liked the name so much. It was I got it from a mockumentary about the street artist Banksy. The name of the movie was Exit Through the Gift Shop, so I made myself this vinyl graphic. For this rocket we're going to recycle the name, but while it may look like normal vinyl because of the transfer tape that's on it, we'll get to it in a second. It's far from normal vinyl, and it is about the most appropriate vinyl I could have picked for this rocket. For now, we're going to turn the heater back on because it's cold, and we're going to start wet sanding this bad boy. Now we're using 1,000 grit, and we're going to start with the nose cone. The nose cone doesn't have any vinyl going on it, so we can do the whole finishing process. I can show you guys what that's going to be like. Alright, so this is what it looks like after 1,000 grit. You can see all the little leopard spots, the shiny spots still. I need to go back over that spot right there because you can still feel it, but those were low spots. And they're still a little bit low, but they're not going to be that noticeable by the time we actually, get everything done and sand it out here. I'm going to go back over this because you can still feel that, but for the most part, those spots you can't feel. And there's a little bit right at the tip of the nose cone that the paint was obviously not sprayed on very thick. That's on me, but you can see once it's wet again, it's shiny again. So I used to have a lot of reservations against like wet sanding stuff because for some reason I had this irrational fear that I wouldn't be able to get the shine back and I would have to clear coat everything again. That's not the case. Don't worry about it. Just follow the instructions and everything will be okay. Alright, we got that feeling nice and smooth with the 1,500. You can already see a good bit more sheen even after we dry it. I don't usually dry it between every wet sand. You don't have to when you change grits. I'm just doing that so you guys can see what we're working with here. But now everything's feeling really smooth. Leveled everything out a little bit more, and I'm just going to go ahead and do the 2,000 then 2,500 without cutting to show you guys what it looks like because it's not even really noticeable to the human eye, but I believe it's over 2,000 grit. They say you're basically just buffing paint at that point and not even really sanding anymore. I don't know for sure the logistics of that, but we're going to go ahead and do some 2,000 grit. Then some 2,500. Then we'll bust out the cutting compound and go to town with that. Alright, let's dry it off and take a look. I wish there was a way that you guys could feel it, because while wet sanding is a time-consuming extra step, it is definitely worth it in the end. So you can see up to 2500 we definitely have a lot more sheen, but it's still pretty dull. That is where our cutting compound is going to save the day. On the 4-inch one I use Meguiar's 105 cutting compound, which is actually kind of expensive. But I ran that over with my drift car. That's a long story. The bottle exploded. At any rate, we're going to try this Turtle Wax branded Renew RX rubbing compound. If you're going to do this step before you put vinyl on your rocket, make sure you have rubbing or cutting compound that does not have wax in it, because vinyl does not like to stick to wax. Lift her up and dab it on. Cutting compound is really like a very fine liquid sandpaper. Very high grit, if you will. I don't know what grit you might be able to rate it at, but you can see they're getting a lot of the shininess back just by using the stuff, and that's not going to dry off. Like, that's just basically polishing the clear coat. I'm gonna make sure we got it nice and seems pretty good up here. But the reason you want to make sure you have waxless if you're putting vinyl on top of it is, while this does make it very, very smooth, it doesn't make it like hydrophobic or slippery. So your vinyl's still gonna stick to it fine. Alright, I'll show you what I mean when I say it's not gonna come off when we, but it's, you want to apply a good amount of pressure. Let me grab a dry paper towel. Show you what I mean. That's dry now. So now you can see we're almost back to our full sheen, like fresh clear coat, but now this is smooth as a pane of window glass. And there's one final step we need to take, and that is wax. Regular turtle wax, old bottle. Obviously, if you're doing this with a car, you don't, you know, do it with a paper towel, but we're not super concerned with the scratch resistance here. We're just going to rub it in circles just like it's a car. Make sure we coat the whole thing. So we're going to let that dry, just like normal turtle wax, because it is normal turtle wax. Make sure we got everything properly covered. Alright, it's been sitting for about 5 minutes, so we're just going to lift it up, take a dry side of a rag, wipe it all off, and just like that, we got our shiny nose cone back, but now it's smoother than ever. It's a very painstaking process to do this to the whole rocket, and I don't want to just fill up my SD card with me doing it to the whole airframe and stuff. So I'm going to put it on the tripod and just time-lapse it for a little bit, but I'll probably cut it at some point. I'm probably going to do the fin section first and go through all the grits of sandpaper, and then do the airframe after that. Alright, time to let her rip. Feeling this now after finishing the nose cone, it feels really inadequate, but I'm going to go straight to 1500 on this bad boy because we didn't have any major issues. So I'm going to try not to bang it on every single thing, but you know, no promises. Just like that, all the shininess is gone. we're gonna bring it on back. First we're gonna do the cutting compound like I said. Then before we put wax on it, we're gonna bust out the fancy new vinyl. Now here's a good way to get a before and after on the difference between just using the cutting compound and after it's waxed. Once it's waxed, it looks like a brand new clear coated paint again. What I'm going to do is wipe this whole thing down with denatured alcohol and let that dry, and then I'll show you guys the vinyl. Like I said before, I am keeping their traditional paint scheme from my other Punishers alive, where the vent band is one color and there's a band around the fins, just above the fins to match that, and then the tip of the nose cone as well. But it only felt appropriate for the graphics for this rocket to be in matte aluminum oil slick, almost color changing, just like rainbow sheen vinyl. So I'm going to put this on the fins, or around the fins, and then we'll do the one on the electronics bay vent, and then I'm going to figure out where I want the main graphic at. Alright, I had to use both of them. The first one got a little janky, but it's alright. We got the other one on. I'm the guy who makes the vinyl, so I can waste as much as I feel like wasting. Now, this is going to be the treacherous part, is the big graphic. I'm pretty much just going to eyeball it, and wherever it lands is where it's going to stay. Just going to get it as straight as possible. And we'll call it good. While the wax is drying, I'm gonna go use some of the spare vinyl I brought, wrap it around that coupler piece, and then trim it to fit. And we'll come buff this wax off. The graphic looks pretty good. It's not very shiny right now because it's covered in wax. And just like that, this rocket is pretty much ready to fly. I just cleaned all the wax off and then hit it with just some regular cleaner. Make everything all shiny. That vinyl is definitely a little off center. The bands aren't perfectly straight. There's some air bubbles. I can see some spots that I think I missed that I need to touch up with wax, but the lighting in the garage makes it a little difficult. I need it in the sun to really take a look at it, but yeah. All in all, with all the paint on it, the thing weighs less than 13 pounds, which is pretty insane considering, you know, its capability to fly on an end motor. But yeah, that's my process from making my fillets to finishing my paint jobs. Everything looks super nice and smooth. Everything feels super nice and smooth. Again, like I said from the beginning, I'm not a professional painter, but I do what I can, and it came out pretty freaking good. I'm not dissatisfied with my first attempt to use the color shift stuff. It's a little difficult, like I said, not perfect, but it is what it is. Our overlap and our run are right down our rail button side. That is why, if anyone wants to know, I don't drill holes for rail buttons till after I paint them, so I can strategically use vinyl and rail button placement to hide issues in the paint. Pro tip for you. In the next video, I'm going to try and kind of give you guys an overview and understanding of the basics of dual deploy flight in high power rocketry, and I have set up just about every type of dual deploy there is in rockets that are right behind the camera. But this is a head-end dual deploy rocket just like the other two Punishers, but we have traditional dual deploy, and I have a rocket that I kind of want to set up to use a shoot release device. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, thanks again for watching. I appreciate all the people who went to rocketvlogs.com and bought a t-shirt. The APCP ACDC logo one seems to be a favorite. But yeah, that's exit through the gift shop. We're going to show you guys how I build the electronics bay and all the parachutes and everything with the dual deploy stuff in the next video. But as far as aesthetics, I think it's done, which is pretty nuts. But thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell for notifications for when my new videos come out. And I'll see you guys next time.